This is another Indivisible Eugene podcast, and I'm your host, Kate Baker. Today, we're talking to Ericka Thesson from the National Organization of Women, and we're discussing the 2018 Women's March in Eugene, Oregon. Welcome, Ericka.
Hey, thank you very much. Nice to talk to you.
Well, Ericka, first things first, tell us a little bit about exactly what National Organization for Women does and why you decided to join this march.
That's great. The National Organization for Women is one of the largest progressive feminist organizations in the U.S. We've been around, kind of since the Gloria Steinem days and, have gone through a lot of growth and changes. I got involved a year ago after the election. I was really worried about some things that I was seeing, and, my children who are teenagers and preteens had experienced some things that were very scary, and I decided that I needed to get involved in politics. I'd always sat on the sidelines and, decided that I needed to get involved, on some issues that were pretty important to me, which is primarily reproductive rights, pay equity for women, looking into things like family and medical leave, paid family leave, LGBTQ rights, those type of things. So anyways, that's how I got involved with NOW, and we were so glad to be part of the event today, the Women's March for Action in Eugene. It was a really amazing day, neat to see all of the ally groups and organizations coming together, joining together to fight for progressive causes.
Well, I have a question that I always kind of wonder about. It's easy to see why your organization, of course, would be marching today. Would you say that you were marching more for something or marching more against something?
Oh, that's a great question. I keep thinking that, a lot of people on the other side, it's really difficult to kind of change where they're coming from, change how they're seeing, change how they're thinking. And so I try to not so much stand up against things to stop things as much as it is to stand up for things. For me, there's just been so much since the election of this administration. But, things like stopping the Muslim ban, the transgender military ban. Now they're doing the kind of like religious freedom, right to discriminate. So really, for me, a lot of being there is standing up for dreamers, for DACA recipients, for refugees and immigrants, being there for LGBTQ people, and most especially trans people who are, really primarily the most targeted and the most vulnerable in our trans troops. And, trying to stand up for women's right to choose.
Sure.
They just Friday, Trump had rescinded the protection that Obama put in place at the very end of his administration to try to limit defunding of Planned Parenthood for people that are on Medicaid. So I think I was there today to stand up for those things and to say that, for my community members and friends and family who are in these marginalized groups. I'm a white woman. I have privilege. I'm able-bodied and cisgendered and heterosexual, and it's about high time that I use that privilege to help other people who have continually been marginalized for countless periods of time. So that's why I was there today. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me, with those being your reasons to be there, do you feel like today was successful? Do you think it changed anything?
I think it did, and I was so impressed with the speakers that spoke today. First of all, I think Indivisible did a top-notch job planning this march. I know early on, before there was a march plan, people had asked if NOW was going to plan one, and we were like, oh, no, we're only a year in the making. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the member support. So I'm so proud of Indivisible, who also, I realize, is only about, a little over a year in existence, to put on something so massive. But so I'm just so proud of Indivisible. But today the speakers were very powerful, and in my heart and in my mind, the ones that were the most powerful were the three young women who spoke from the NAACP. And I felt like a lot of what they talked about really resonated with me about who we need to stand up for and why. And, why why Black Lives Matter and why we need to say that and why we need to stand up for dreamers and, for people who have been victims of sexual harassment or abuse. So their speeches were unbelievable. That was really amazing. And I feel like what they talked about did move some people. And to think that these are young people. I don't think any of them are even 18. And to see that these young people are saying these things, they're thinking these things, and then they're being leaders in the community, it told me today that it's going to be all right, that we're going to get through what this country is going through right now.
Right. Huh. That's interesting. You're I guess, the second or third person I've done an interview with that has talked about coming away feeling very reassured. They're a lot angrier than they were last year, but they came away feeling better. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Were there any surprises for you in the event? Was there anything you found real unexpected?
No, I was, as I kind of always am, a little concerned about maybe counter-protesters or hecklers or, some negativity from other groups, because they have a right to demonstrate as well, although we all need to make sure we do it peacefully and lawfully. But I was pleased that there were some Trump supporters that were there. They had gotten there early, but they literally just stood there, and they didn't really say anything to us. I know occasionally they engaged with some people in some very polite adult conversation, but I was relieved and surprised that there wasn't any of that, because I was a little concerned. It feels like one of the differences from last year to this year is that the country is now more polarized, and that makes me a little anxious, because I feel like everybody's so fired up and the sides keep pulling further and further apart, that one of the things I had worried was that we had the potential of that happening, and we didn't. And I think part of that goes to the speakers, and the planners, really, that they did try to reach out to lots of different community groups, and when there were concerns, I know that they did try to address those. And so, and they did a really transparent job. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Ericka. We really appreciate you taking time to talk to us. And I do have one more question at the end.
Sure.
If anyone listening would like more information about the National Organization of Women and the projects you're involved in locally, where can they find that information?
That's a great question. So we are called the South Willamette Valley chapter of the National Organization for Women. So we're at www.swvnow.org. And we're on Facebook and Instagram. Like I said, it's South Willamette Valley, but like on Instagram, we're SWVNOW. So you can follow us there. We do have a website, and I gave you that. We have meetings the first Monday of every month, and during kind of the colder season, we meet at the Eugene Garden Club. And it's open. It's a safe space. We encourage anybody to come. I know sometimes men show up, and they're like, can we not be here? And I'm like, no, heavens. Anybody can be here. Many years ago now was not terribly welcoming to the LGBTQ, population, and we have to own that, and things are very different. So I know, we hadn't had a chapter here in town for a long time, and now we do, and I know some women came out and are like, well, are we welcome? And it's like, of course you're welcome. The mistakes that were made in the past, we're pretty honest about, and we own them. And so we try really hard to make intersectional feminism, kind of at the center of everything we're doing.
Well, thank you. That's good to know. And once again, let me just thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, you bet. It was nice to talk to you, too. Thanks for all you're doing.
You're welcome. This has been another Indivisible Eugene podcast.